You mentioned a very important aspect of your journey as an independent director. That's something that a lot of people ask questions on.
Yes.
You get a lot of marketing emails about, the numbers of independent directors are going to, India is going to need, or the world is going to need, and a lot of fancy courses that are available that people can do. Honestly, if you can break down the need for independent directors, the path to independent directors, I think it would be really helpful for a lot of people listening in to know and make an informed decision.
Yes, absolutely right. So, in fact, you're bang on in saying, a lot of people have been asking me as well. So, I have been an independent director for almost 10 years now. So, much before this boom about Indian independent directors came about, I have been an independent director.
Mm.
So, one thing, rather, like couple of things that I can tell you out of my experience is, yes, there's going to be a need, most probably, but people are not going to get you on board as an independent director just because you have a certification or whether you have done a particular course. It boils
Mm.
down to the fact that what is the value that you're going to add to the organization? What is your specialization? What is your niche, that can really contribute to the organization? So the certification is more a byproduct. Now, if let's say I'm running a company, and then I think Gopal has the necessary skill set to add value to my organization, then I would approach Gopal and say, hey Gopal, why don't you come on board as an independent director? And then if you're interested, that's when you start looking at these certification, other things, because you need to be well equipped. And I feel it's more uh, secondary state that needs to go. So primary is your specialization. Now, nobody is going to
Sure.
take you on board just because you have a certification. Remember that very clearly.
Sure.
That's the first thing I want to share. The second important thing is, even if you have the niche, even if you think you're going to add value, and even if you have the certification in place, one very, very important thing that you need to have in mind is that as an independent director, you become personally liable for any sort of mishaps the company does. And that's not something very pleasant, right? So,
Mm.
therefore, one needs to do a lot of due diligence before taking up the role. Because remember, as an independent director, you're not involved in the day to day operations of the company, right?
Mm.
So, therefore, get in, do a lot of due diligence, see, if you can truly value add, whether you think you get along with the management, the founders, the promoters, whoever is running the company, whether, they are aligned in the thought process with you. Do they really want you on board, or, it's just a tick of the box that they want to have you? And ask a lot
It
of these
happens quite a
difficult
bit.
questions. Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So, in fact, I mean, over the last 10 years, I have been approached by many different organizations who wanted me as an independent director on their boards. And of course, while it all seems hunky dory, the reality may not be so. So, I have actually rejected quite a few of them because when I do my due diligence, I wasn't completely satisfied, and I just felt, it is probably not so safe. So, I have been very picky and choosy. And I would urge you to apply your prudence before you take up anything, right? So do your due diligence. I'm not saying everything is bad, but then you need to be sure and trust your gut feel, right? And see whether you can really value add and whether you can work along with the management team of the company that you're looking at. So those are, don't just go by the prestige or the status, because in reality there is nothing so fancy about being an independent director. But while yeah, I
Right.
mean, it's good to be, but get to know the reality before you join is what I want to share.
Yeah, I have a follow-up question on that, and I think it's very important that we kind of slightly dig deeper into the two elements that you spoke just now. One
Right.
is doing the due diligence. Second is, of course, you're personally liable. Now, when you
Yes.
say these two words, it of course may raise alarms in a lot of people's mind, and people may or may not make informed choices unless and until they
Yes.
heard this from you.
Yes. Yeah.
What does this look like? What does personally liable mean? What could that impact, if at all, if you can share some examples? And when you say doing due diligence, how should one go about it? If you can share a little bit more on this, that would
Sure.
really help.
Sure. So due diligence is basically, getting to check from your industry peers, or whichever industry the particular company is in. Just talk to as many different people as you can, and get their inside perspective. It can be the employees, it can be the other board directors, it can be the former board of directors, it can be people associated with the industry, it can be the auditors, right? So you could just go around talking to people, ask the right sort of questions to see how comfortable, what they think, and what are the actions, what are the challenges, what do they see, and and then map it with what is there for you. And most importantly, if you can get to see a bit of their financial statements, and if you're a finance professional, I would urge you to look at that as well. So look through that, and then ask yourself hard questions like, how do you think you'll be able to add value to them? Why do they want you on their board, right? And what is it? Is there any ulterior motive? Is it just a fancy thing? Or just run through a whole lot of questions like this from a due diligence perspective. And of course, you could even Google and check, do as many different checks as possible that you can. Internal auditors, external auditors, different people, right? So that is on the due diligence. And on the personal liability, I think there are enough and more cases one can just Google on and see. And I don't want to name anything in particular, but if you Google, you will definitely find a lot of them. And when I say you're personally liable, it could be in worst cases like your assets could get locked down, or if it's a larger thing, you're probably even forbidden to travel out of the country. Different, it can get quite messy. So
Sure.
it's also important. One other tip I would like to share is see if the companies have taken some amount of insurance for independent directors. Your it's called, I think, DNO, directors. I forget the full form of it now, but basically they can cover a little bit of it. May not be 100% because it depends on the volume and everything. But so just be safe. So that's where I feel, the corporate governance, the ethics, the integrity of the management plays a key role. And that's why I keep saying that, whether it aligns with what you stand for or not. So it's always better to be safe than sorry.
Absolutely.